Welcome to the Two Guys, One Coup podcast with Dale and Jim, where the truth matters and progressives' feelings don't. We bring you the facts from the perspective of two average, everyday guys who will never apologize for being America first, for adhering to our great Constitution, and for saluting the flag that our brothers and sisters have fought and died for. And now, here's Dale and Jim.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing great. Welcome, everyone. Two Guys, One Coup, episode 26. Jim, you've had a good week so far, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's been good. Mm-hmm.
Has there been any news to talk about, do you think?
No, there's nothing going on. Nothing at all. Nothing to see here.
Going on.
Other than everything Putin and Russia's fault.
I mean, why not? Still, I'm surprised that the leak from the Supreme Court on the abortion ruling wasn't Putin's fault. But
yeah, well, I'm sure it is somewhere, somehow. It's Trump's and Bush's fault because they're the ones that put the justices in place.
Well, of course,
we will talk about that later.
We will. We got a lot to get over. Or get through, guys. A lot of news going on, and we also have an interview at the end of the show you're going to want to listen to, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. So, Jim, let's get right to it. Well, I am pissed off. Jim, fucking pissed off.
And you haven't been pissed beforehand?
I'll tell you, I don't know if I just woke up today and got through my day and things pissed me off even more. But what I need to really discuss is this $40 billion relief or what do you call it? A relief plan that we're sending to Ukraine.
Yep. But we don't need that here.
Well, that's my point here. Is that we've got a $40 million and a number of Republicans voted for this.
I know.
A number of them. And enough's enough. I mean, enough's enough already.
They did it for political purposes because they were going to get drilled if they voted against it. But not like they're not getting
by
drilled
who?
now.
By who would they get drilled? That's my problem with
liberal
Republicans.
Left,
they're
Nancy
afraid.
Pelosi, Schumer, and
So what?
Yeah, that's
all right. $40 billion more dollars, all while supply chain crisis is happening here. All while, so I'm glad you're protecting Ukraine's border. It's fantastic, isn't that wonderful? While all the illegals are jumping over our border, I think I seem to remember, Jim, that President Trump wanted $5 billion to complete the entire wall.
Yep.
Am I wrong?
For security of our border.
For security of the border.
Right.
Yeah. And here we are, $40 billion more, and we can't even get baby food on the shelves.
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
So all you rhinos and Republicans that voted for this, I am as equally pissed off as I am with all the left and progressive left and Democrats that voted for this. I can't sit here and think to myself why they want to continue to do this. First of all, why is there even another? Is the war going on? Jim, what's happening over there? Is Putin still attacking? I mean, I saw pictures of stupid Pelosi and Adam Shithead sitting there in their nice suits in what looked like supposed to be war-torn Kiev.
Yep.
That place looked better than San Francisco. It looked better in Chicago. It looked better than parts of L.A. And why are we sending our taxpayer money over there? Well, I think I know. Well, you got to cover up the Biden crime family, if you ask me.
Right.
You've got to cover their ass.
Yep.
That's I think the truth of the matter, and I think it goes deeper than Biden. I think it goes to a lot of Democrats and maybe now even some Republicans. I don't know that are corrupt politicians in this country. And it just aggravates me when I go to the store and I see it. I don't buy baby. Thank God I don't have to buy baby formula, but it's not on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It is. These people are more interested, and we'll get into this later, to help whatever the fuck is going on over there and champion on this side of the lake, of the pond, to kill babies. You know,
I was going to say, you're talking about you actually think this group of leftists, Democrat shitheads that are out there that are actually going to give a damn about babies? They don't care about babies in the womb. Hell, Elizabeth Warren says it's not a baby, it's a fetus. Fetus means baby. So, they're idiots. They don't care. They don't give an effing shit. Now, granted, there was a big recall of baby food. All right, there was a big recall of formula. However,
why? Yeah, go on.
The FDA has been asked to clean it up and get all that stuff out, but we have to have contingency plans now because, come on, I mean, some of this is going to happen, but now we have baby formula crisis, and there's mothers legitimately that are upset.
As they should be.
Yep.
As they should be. Yes, I understand there was a recall. But oddly enough, there was 18, 20, food processing fires and plants, and not all of them burnt to the ground. I get all that. But come on, man.
Well,
I guess I got my tinfoil hat on again. But what is really going on?
Well, maybe this? Biden needs to release the 60 million barrels of baby formula that he has in stock for safety.
If he'd have just not halted the Gerber pipeline, this might never have happened. So you got all that going on, and then you got more great news from this administration and these buffoons running it. That gas is now at an all-time record high. Well, wait a second, you say, Dale. How could that be? I mean, how could gas be at all? I mean, we just had an all-time record high on March 10th. But that's right. He beat that record. So here we are. Again, it's reached on average $4.30. You've probably seen it at the pumps in the last couple of weeks. Boom, skyrocketing.
In my area, it's $4.19.
Mm-hmm. Why is that, Jim? Why did this all of a sudden spike happen? Well, because the buffoon has his contingency plan was to release 1.8 million barrels from the reserve.
Right.
Not every day. Yeah, you couldn't do that. Just release that to help. But instead, we could have had the Keystone Pipeline that was going to deliver 830 million barrels a day.
Yep.
A day. And I don't want to hear it from the dummycrats that are going to comment on this shit, that are going to tell me, well, that wasn't even going to start happening for a couple of years. So, I mean, that's how they're so stupid that they can't even see the end game. They can't even see what the perception of bringing our own oil across our land would do for gas prices. Right. They just can't see that. So
it was proven under Trump when he opened the Keystone Pipeline, and then when he allowed on drilling on our homeland. We knew we weren't going to be able to use that oil right away.
Yeah.
But guess what? The prices went down. OPEC lowered their barrel prices. Everything came down. That's the point. When the United States decides we can do something on our own, it affects everything. And it's just, but this administration, they give in to the leftist side of their group, the green people, all of those idiots that are out there that think that the world's melting and we're going to be underwater here in another year or two. But it's just insane.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
I mean, and sky high inflation. I think up to 8.3% now, if I'm not mistaken.
And it's that damn Putin. I just get sick and tired of him causing all this trouble here.
All this inflation. And I know, but so for instance, back when the buffoon in charge was installed on January of 2020, the average gas price was $2.11. It is more than doubled. The guy's been in office 16 months, 15 months. I mean, technically 14, by the time, I don't get it. But anyways, there's good news for the folks in Florida. because the greatest governor in the history of governors, Ron Desantis, I know I'm biased, but let's be honest, it's true, has signed the largest tax relief bill the state's ever seen. It's a $1.2 billion tax relief for Floridians. The Florida House tax package, the largest middle-class tax relief package in the history of the state, is now the law of the land. If you don't mind, Jim, I'm going to run down a couple things that this entails. Basically, Florida doesn't have a state income tax. There are a few of those around the country that we know of. So it's to be honest with you, you're kind of reliant upon tourism tax. You're reliant upon your sales taxes. Well, this plan combats all of that by limiting the sales tax. So one of the biggest, to me, highlights from this is a 1-year sales tax holiday, 1 year, from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, for children's diapers, shoes, toddler and baby clothing.
Good.
So you're paying no sales tax on that. I mean, when you think about that, that's a pretty good savings at a 6.5% sales tax on everything you purchase. So that's a 6.5% tax break, for those items. That's just one thing. There's the 3-month tax holiday for children's books. There's a 1-month fuel tax holiday. So from October 1st to October 3rd of this year, there will be no sales tax on gasoline, which will lower it about 25 to 26 cents per gallon, which is a help. I know it doesn't bring it down to pre-Trump day, but he's not president.
At least he's trying to do something.
At least he's trying to do something. And do you think people that live on the border of Florida, on all the states, so you've got Alabama, Georgia, you think those people might be coming across the state line?
Yeah.
So that brings in revenue, right? Yes. Because of that. Other things that he's doing, a 7-day tool time sales tax between September 3rd and September 9th. So all tools, so for all the industries, doesn't matter. He's got an appliance tax for a week. So if you need to go get a new appliance, no tax on that. That could save you quite a bit of money.
That could save you a lot of money, yeah.
That could save you a lot of money. That's what's crazy. It's kind of on Energy Star appliances, which is pretty much every new appliance you buy now anyways. We'll have that tax on it. A 2-year sales tax if you buy impact-resistant windows, doors, and garage doors. So impact-resistant, that's code here because of hurricanes. Right. You need that here. So 2 years. For if you want to replace your windows, you want to replace your doors, your garage door, no sales tax for 2 years on that. It's another example to me of Ron DeSantis acting in the people's benefit. This is not, yes, I understand he's a governor, so of course everything he's going to, every governor is thinking, well, I'm taking care of my people in my state. There's so many examples of Ron DeSantis doing this kind of thing that I don't know how this guy doesn't become president.
Yeah,
but I think I know how he could not become president, and that has to do with the movie you reviewed last show, 2,000 Mules. Which, by the way, Jim, I want to bring up. My brother-in-law Billy called me yesterday. And his first words out of his mouth were, "Oh my God." He just got done watching it, 2,000 Mules. Mm-hmm. And he said, yeah, we knew something happened, but he had no idea no clue it was that in depth. And I'm like, I got to watch. He sent me the link. So I'm going to be watching it tonight. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry I didn't watch it yet. That's all right. I have to. But I am definitely going to be watching it because I'm really interested in that. But to me, that's the only way that I can see that one, we're going to lose in the midterms, and two, we're not going to gain the presidency back in 20, because you can't have these policies and this idiot of a president and his maybe even worse vice president. I can't see how people will vote for this guy. I didn't the first time, and now it's even worse.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to attempt. Let's face it. The only reason the cheating was attempted was because of Trump. In my opinion, it was because of him. They wanted him out. They needed him out, and they got him out. And
what if Trump runs again, Jim?
Well, he's gonna, I think, but they may try.
I don't think he should. I just don't think he should. I think he should give up the.
Me too.
You should give it up to somebody like a Ron DeSantis or
let him
Tim
run.
Scott, or have that kind of ticket or something, or whatever.
Scott's going to be a 2028, 2032 guy.
Could be vice presidential is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So you give it up to those kind of people, or you give it up to somebody like a Kristi Noem, or those kind of people, to try to run. Let Nikki Haley shine for a little bit. I don't know. That's Haley, what
she would be good.
Yeah. So I think at this point he needs to continue what he's doing, which is dominating on his picks and his endorsements. I mean, he was 22 for 22 last week, or 2 weeks ago. And he needs to continue that kind of. That's where I think he's going to be best served, in the country. Yeah, great president. I'd love to have him back. I really, honestly, I would. Mm-hmm. But if he runs again, I'm not going to say I think they're going to do it regardless. They want to maintain that power so much, and we kind of jump subjects there, and we'll get to more stories there in a second.
It all runs together.
It all runs together. But I mean, I think that they are going to, regardless, because they want that power. I think they're going to try to find another way. I think they're doing it now with the whole COVID crap. Now all of a sudden, I don't know, 2.5 years into it, Bill Gates got COVID, I just think it's more and more and more, and it's going to continue to happen so they can do the mail-in ballots. That's the way they're going to cheat.
If they do the mail-in ballots again, that's what they're trying to do. Now, on the other hand, Republicans you have people out there, and I have a feeling this could get bad, because you don't think that at those boxes, you don't think that some groups are going to have people just standing there waiting for somebody to come up, and if they put more than, if they put 5 or 6 ballots in there, you don't think there's not going to be a confrontation?
What are they? Okay.
Or someone like me who may be sitting there taking pictures of the guy, taking pictures of him doing it, and at 3:00 in the morning, because that's, that's ridiculous, and and confronting them, and then calling the police, turning them into the police.
What's going to happen? That's what.
After a while, people, even the Supreme Court, after a while, if all these other courts want to just pass it on, the Supreme Court's going to have to say, yeah, guys, this is not good. And maybe the Supreme Court has to step up and say, yeah, there's no reason for those ballot boxes anymore.
You want to tell me, without seeing the movie again, you want to tell me that that's not enough evidence to take to the Supreme Court?
It is. But why isn't people being prosecuted?
Why isn't it, Jim?
I don't know.
That's the big question. Well,
I have no idea.
So I'll tell you. I mean, I was having this conversation yesterday with my brother-in-law, and he says, if you are in a city like that, you're in a Democrat city, you're in Green Bay, you're in Atlanta, you're in those cities, and you take it to their law enforcement, where's it going to go from there? It's a Democrat-ran city. That's never, we'll get to it. No matter what the excuse, we'll get to it, or we're looking into it. We're doing our own investigation. We really got to verify all this. That's what's happening. And they can drag this out until it doesn't become news. Not that it's news now, because, even Fox isn't reporting on it, which is just pissing me off too on that end. But yeah, that's what they'll end up doing. So, and he's right in a way. Where is it going to go? I agree. There's too much evidence out there. There's no way that every one of those people they tracked should not be in jail now. Yet you have people who walked into the Capitol voluntarily because the Capitol Police were opening the doors are looking at life sentences.
Yep.
Life sentence. That's what the fuck is going on in this country. And enough's enough. So somebody with balls in some city, the FBI's got to stop being so fucking corrupt, and they've got to get off their asses, and they got to take care of this shit, because this inflation and these gas prices and these ridiculous amounts of money going to a foreign country instead of protecting your own is a result of all of that. And I'm telling you, the real insurrection is going to be when we all start fighting back.
Yep.
And then that'll be an insurrection. That'll be the day. But Jim, let's move on. What do you think?
Okay. Okay. Well, as our show's expert transgender person, I seem to.
Yay, a transgender story. I love it. Thank you, Jim.
The only reason I'm bringing this up is, guys, this
Your
is
love of transgenders.
No.
Okay.
This is getting real. And what I mean by real, this is getting to the point now where we need to start, no, this can't happen. Okay, so our wonderful Assistant Secretary of Human Health Services, Rachel Levine, or whatever you want to call it,
or whatever you want to call it. Is that what you said?
Yeah, apparently women, as far as abortion goes, that's when people care about what women, we call them women. It's what you're taking away the right of a woman to choose to have an abortion or not. But
it's the only time they can define it.
Yeah, right? But we can't define a woman any other. Anyway, I digress.
Of course not.
But so she's sitting there that there's no argument that the transgender, all doctors of all areas feel that we need to have more involvement and help and assistance with kids going through transgender.
Oh, kids.
Yeah. Kids.
What age kids are we talking about?
We are talking elementary age kids. I think they call it transgender dystopia, whatever the hell they call that damn
dystopia?
Thing. Whatever it's called.
But I have no idea.
The thing is that there's medical doctors now that are coming out and saying that was a false, which every person in this administration, you just state that from the beginning. False, has no backing, no proof, no evidence of anything. They just state it. Mm-hmm. There probably one doctor that came up to Rachel Levine and said to her, her / whatever the hell, but said to them that, we really need to push this in elementary schools, help them transgender. Going so far as to have the actual surgery.
No.
For minors. I kid you not.
Come on.
Yeah, they want to start the medication. They want to start, but it's almost like they want to fast track it. So it's, and again, I know I made light of this about the drive-through abortions in Illinois. I honestly think we're going to have drive-through transgender surgery. It's getting to that point where
is it going to be an outpatient surgery?
Yeah. Now some of these doctors are coming out, but they don't want to voice their opinion too much because of the backlash that they get, right? You only have
I'm so sick of this backlash bullshit.
Well, you see what's going on with the Supreme Court justices.
That's what I'm saying.
So they're scared of that. And it's like, so anyway, what this all infers is some of these doctors are coming out and saying that they're just not comfortable with this from a child standpoint, the minors. Because the one thing that people don't talk about are the actual kids that went through this. Okay, they went through all this stuff and then had regrets. They had surgery as a minor.
Yes,
and then they had
suicides as a result of it too.
Yeah, see, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about stuff like that. But we're talking about gender affirming care, which includes social affirmation at any age, puberty blockers, any age. Did you catch that? Any age.
That.
Puberty blockers during puberty, cross-sex hormone therapy starting during early adolescence. Irreversible surgery is typically used in adulthood or case-by-case basis in adolescence. So they want adolescents to go through all of this stuff. So they want a 9-year-old child to have, who's been watching all this stuff, who hasn't
reached puberty,
right? Who has questions about, man, I just don't feel right. So maybe I should be the other sex. When it's not the case, you don't feel right because maybe you've got indigestion, or I'm making light of it, but you have something like that. But or maybe that's not what it is. Maybe it's something else. So maybe we should talk to a professional psychiatrist first. I don't know. That's my...
Yeah, but so my issue, I think we got to look too into. I would love to get a psychologist or psychiatrist on there. I know we're trying. We are. Because I understand that, at least from medical professionals I've spoken to about this subject, that a lot of adults do appear to be happier, and they finally feel at peace with themselves going through this. That's fine. Go for it. Whatever. I think you're screwing with genetics. You're screwing with God's will, that whole thing, whatever, blah, blah. But you're happier, and that's good for you. You're living your happy life. Someone tell me a 5-6-year-old knows that I want to be a boy or I need to be a girl because I feel weird or I feel different.
Or how scary is this, Dale? How scary is it a completely radical parent?
Yes.
Who wants to do this, who kind of forces their child to do it.
So damn it, I wanted a girl and we had a boy. I mean, you tell me that's when it doesn't end.
Yeah, if you have a 5 or 6-year-old boy and you're constantly, let's just say, the mother is dressing you up as a girl, the mother's doing this, the mother's doing all of that stuff, and who's to say this isn't going to happen? That it's not the kid that wants to do it, and then after a while, when you're that young, what's going to happen? Maybe
I am this. Maybe that's what I'm supposed to be. Yeah.
And so this is all wrong. But I tell you right now,
Florida, 100 different levels. Yes.
You guys, I know you have some crazy people down there, but not as crazy as California. But we all have them, right?
I mean, you get 25 million people. There's probably going to be somebody that's a lunatic.
The Florida Surgeon General, Joseph Lopatto. I mean, Florida was between DeSantis and all. You guys have some great people down there. Let's get them going.
Yeah, I just want to break away and be the United State of Florida.
He released a fact sheet that is advising against the HHS list of treatment options for children and adolescents experiencing gender dysphoria. All right, so basically, he's coming out and he's saying that. He has all of this fact sheets that he has that comes out and says, okay, this is why they're wrong. This is what they have. And so now he says it's back in their court for where they have to then present it. So they went back to Levine asking about this again. And she repeated the same thing that she did before. Doctors say that now's the time we're ready to do this.
Oh my God.
No, we're not. Adolescents, no freaking way. I'm going to go so far as to say, if this is something that's going to happen, there needs to be a 16, 18-year-old limit to where you have with these children. You do not have a 10-year-old child going through all of these therapeutical things. Nope. And it's absolutely insane.
You can, to me, if like you said, if they're 10 years old or something and they need to talk to a therapist or they need to talk to somebody, I say go for it. If it stops suicides because of that, if it stops bullying, if it stops all that crap, I'm okay with that. I don't like bullying. I don't like suicides. I also don't like suicides when they do transition and decide, my life's fucked up now, so I made the wrong decision, I'm ending it. I don't like that either. So, Jim, this whole transgender bullshit is getting out of hand to me.
It is.
But again, all of this we talk about almost on every show, people, whether it's transgenders, whether it's economy, whether it's supply chain issues, whether it's inflation, whether it's unemployment, is all a result of the illegal election. It's all a result. These people have been installed because this happened. the trickle down of all this has been devastating to this nation and devastating to parents and you name it, so go on, Jim. I don't know. I'm just fuck them. I'm just sick of it all.
Look, the only reason I brought this up, not because
to piss me off more.
It's only because now it's one thing to have a school go through and help a child transition without parents' knowledge. That's one thing.
Which we talked about with
But this whole thing about now the federal government's getting involved and money's going to be thrown at it, right? So we know
like it was COVID.
Taxpayers are going to start paying for this. Taxpayers are going to start paying for that. And it just drives me nuts where we get to this point where we have all of this. We're talking about a small group of the American population. Do I want them bullied? No. Do I feel people are actually going through this that actually feel this? Yes. But do I feel some people are being used and they're being misdiagnosed? Yes. I just think this is just it's no different.
Go on. Either way, Jim, we have laws for minors, and they're in place for a reason. You can't drink till you're a certain age. You can't drive till you're a certain age. You can't vote till you're a certain age. Why can't they vote? Why can they change their sex at 10, but they can't make a decision on a president? Well, I'll tell you why. Because their brains aren't functioning enough to know the details of choosing a president.
Yep.
If 10-year-olds voted, they would all vote for Biden. You know what I mean? That's just what would happen. That's how their brains work. But yet they're allowed to make this decision about their own sexuality. Nobody, tell me, liberals, please tell me that you can see how ridiculous this is. Go on, Jim. I interrupted again because I'm pissed tonight, and you keep pissing me off with these stories.
No, so this whole thing. No, I get it because this is starting to piss me off. We have. We're going to be talking about this pretty soon. I mean, one of my biggest problems with abortion and Planned Parenthood is there's no help. There's no, like, if a person, and we hear, and before everybody jumps down me and said all those undercover cameras that went into all these Planned Parenthoods, that we're talking about this.
Oh yeah. Project Veritas. You talking about that whole story?
Yep. Now I'm not saying all of them. There might be some out there that do, but I don't think there's a lot of counseling. When someone wants to decide to have an abortion, I think they just have it. They schedule it. They have it done. There's no counseling with them because how many people have had abortions at a young age and then turned around as an adult and always say they regret it? They regret it. That's a lot. I mean, even the person who was behind Roe v. Wade regretted it. Regretted her movement. Regretted all
and
that.
Controversy about how she got pregnant, obviously.
Yeah.
Gang raped didn't happen, but then later she said it, might have happened. It was all bullshit. Go on.
But that's the whole thing now we're talking about with some of these healthcare professionals that are we really helping these children? Are we guiding them to a certain level? Like we talked about school counselors. School counselors aren't going to be able to tell. Johnny comes in and says, I'm a little confused. I like wearing my mom's shoes or I really like pretty dresses or something like that. Okay, that counselor has no business talking to that child about transitioning because
of course not.
That we have people we have men that like to wear women's clothing. That doesn't mean they want to become a woman. They just like to wear it. Okay.
Yeah.
So they don't have the skills, like I don't have the skills to talk to a child about this. But this right here, this irresponsible health and human resource services that we have, okay, is going out here and saying that all doctors agree that we need to start doing this when all doctors don't agree.
Of course not.
But the problem is more doctors disagree with it than agree with it for children. For children. Okay.
Minors. We're talking about minors.
Exactly. Here. So when you have a 16-year-old, okay, let's put him through, but you don't start. See, this report says they want to start them on puberty blockers right away.
That's ridiculous.
For a 10-year-old. Are you kidding me?
That's ridiculous.
Like you said, this 10-year-old, they don't know They have no clue.
No
and
clue.
So now we're going to have
no idea whatsoever.
Again, I'm going back. Everybody's worried about, oh my God, if you outlaw abortions, you're going to have people dying back. Women are going to be aborting themselves and doing this and doing that. So that's why this is always defended, right? Oh, we got to watch this because people are going to do this, people are going to do that, and it's this transgender step right now is becoming such a focus out in public. But if you look at, and again, we talked about the top 10 topics Americans are dealing with today. It's 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
But that's what Democrats do.
That's what
they take these things and they throw it out there so they can change the subject that the fact inflation's 8.3%.
That's right. That's right. They take the 7th or 8th thing that Americans think about, which is something like this, and they try to make it number one.
Yep. And so if you look everywhere, that's what they're talking about right now. Justice's house being targeted, all of this stuff. And we're not
which is against the law, by the way.
Well, we'll get into that when we get into this abortion stuff, but
yeah, that's right.
So
we will.
Anyway, that's it for transgender. I hope I don't have to do another damn story on it.
You will. Stay tuned next Tuesday for Jim's next transgender story. I mean, let's be honest, Jim. Let's move on. Okay, this story may not take that long, Jim, but it does go along with the whole 2,000 mules and an interesting thing that happened that's happening in New Mexico. New Mexico hasn't been on anybody's radar, as far as I know. Apparently, it's a story out of that fake news source, the Gateway Pundit, says that on Tuesday they reported that there have been issues identified by auditors in New Mexico's 2020 election audit in Otero County. Included in the presentation was the fact that it was discovered that the voting machines could fill out ballots on their own. And they proved this. In the video, Nick Mosader, he's part of the auditing group, discusses the findings from the audit presentation. He discusses at great length the findings regarding the fact that the voting machines can fill out ballots. This would allow for the creation of ballots. Basically, right? So if it fills it out, you've now created a legal voting ballot, right? Moser said that when the machines do this, the ballots are fed into the machine and then spit back out. In the Antrim County audit, they found that around 80% of the ballots there showed that they were spit out, indicating that they went through this process where the ballots were created and filled in by the machines. 80%.
80. How many people are in this area?
I can't. It doesn't tell me. There could be 10. So 8 out of 10.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
matter.
Moster mentioned that the machines have a USB port that would allow a user to attach a cell phone and allow a user from across the country could actually affect the machine. He proved all this in court. Then Moster mentions Microsoft SQL was found on these machines as well. I don't know, but also there was no password required to get into the software. And then in parentheses, it says, as we've noted in the past, SQL will allow a user to change large chunks of data in seconds. That's what that means.
No password?
No, not password protected. Finally, Moser reports on the emails obtained by the audit team involving the Secretary of State that included ballot totals. These emails correspond with large swaths of ballots entering into the system at the exact same time. I believe there's going to be more on it. Again, I told you that wouldn't take long. But, Jim,
oh my God.
So this is I don't know the size of the county. I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with Otero County. I'm not familiar with Antrim County in New Mexico. But as far as I knew, New Mexico hasn't even been on the radar for any voter fraud, for any voter, right?
I think every state in some aspect has some.
It's what we've been saying. So what we saw in 2,000 Mules, what I'm going to see, what you've explained, is that, they've taken these specific 5 states and specifically more 5 city areas. And that was all due to a lot of the Zuckerbucks that went into it and a lot of that information. So you're going to see, we knew this was happening across the country, but here's just another example.
Yeah, and remember, this is
what's
Bill
going
Richardson's
on.
state. The wonderful Bill Richardson.
What a great dude he is.
Yeah, and but I want to, if you're in a bad mood, I would not watch 2,000 Mules today.
I'm watching it today
because we might hear about somebody blowing things up in Florida.
I'm telling you, I'm watching it today. Today's the day I need to watch it. So
because it's going to make you angry. But folks out there, it's just. And what really bugs me,
Mrs. Dale might want to work late tonight.
Yeah.
She just might want to work.
And I have family and friends that are left. I do. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of them that are left, and I hope some of them are watching our pod. I know they watch a couple of them. They watch the interview with Laverne and all that, but and Kareem. But I hope they understand that as much as you despised Donald Trump, as much as you hated him, they don't care that cheating happened. That's why they keep telling themselves that, it never happened. You guys are just making this stuff up. You can't make up the video and geo-tracking that they did in this 2,000 Mules. You can't make that up.
You can't make that up.
Especially when one of the people that they tracked in Arizona is actually speaking, is actually talking.
Correct.
And she is so scared that she had to cover her face and disguise her voice when she was talking.
And you know why? Because she'd be suicided.
And the Dems, if they find out who she is, will release her name and they will release her address, how to get a hold of her. That's how despicable these people are. And
that's right.
But they don't care. They honestly don't give a damn that cheating happened. And I'm going to be honest with you, they probably don't care if it happens in the midterms. They probably don't care if it happens in 2024. But by God, you have some Jesus, I'm sorry, bitch Hillary Clinton comes out and says 2016 was stolen, 2016 was stolen. So we start all this investigation. We start it, guys. We start an investigation with the FBI, who hates Donald Trump, who hates Republicans. So they start this investigation into this Steele dossier. They do it. They look at it. They do it. Every time they found something or turned over a rock, they went and found out, wow, this was done by Hillary's group, or this was done by a lawyer, or this was done by this, to eventually
somebody associated with the Clinton campaign. Every time this
thing turned into the Durham report.
Yep.
Which now is taking on a whole life of its own.
Sure
that this is, and Hillary Clinton's taking this seriously because she's actually backed out of talking about running for any time, and the Democrats don't even have her in the top 10. Correct. So this is legit, guys. So you can sit there and like this new press secretary that was one of the tweets back then saying that the 2016 election was stolen and everything else. How that tweet wasn't taken off, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But now it's proven that it didn't happen, and there's Sussman's going to jail unless he talks. So one way or the other, somebody's going to go to jail over this thing because it was false. But every time conservatives are able to prove what we feared, what we have, that's bullcocky. We're not going to follow that. So what they do is they repress it. Facebook. Facebook took down a Dan Bongino post about 2,000 Mules. Took it down.
Yep. Took it down. Took it right down.
So it's the
they're
joke,
all
guys.
doing it. TikTok's doing it. Facebook's doing it. Instagram's doing it. Any Twitter, any of that stuff, they're taking it down. It's why a lot of people don't want to watch videos but honest to God, if you go to Rumble, you don't have to watch it. Just turn it on and listen like you would any podcast. You don't have to sit there and watch it. But they're not taking any of it down. So Dan Bongino's all over there. All of his stuff's on there. We keep posting our stuff on there too. In the event YouTube is taking our stuff down, which they will. They will. Now, oddly enough, our last episode is still up there. I don't know what that's about. But anyways, it is still up there.
But anyway, Jim,
it's the whole thing. It pisses you off. It's the whole. My question is, Jim, real quick, and then we'll get on to our last segment or our final segment before the interview. Now that they know that there's geo tracking, right? That's how they did it.
Turn off the phone.
Which kind of, you're not going to see any phones.
Mm-mm.
There's going to be disposable cameras used to take pictures because they were getting paid to do these, drop the ballots in. So there's going to be no phones. So what happens now? What's the next thing that happens? It wouldn't surprise me if coming soon, you'll be able to vote online.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm telling you, they're going to try to do whatever it takes, no matter who runs. And I think that they can't win on their policies. They can't win on their speeches. They can't win on. They're going to have to do whatever it takes. And I don't care if DeSantis runs. I don't care if Tim Scott runs. I don't care if Trump runs. Whatever person runs, they're going to try to do whatever it takes.
I don't know
to cheat.
On one of our pages that we are on Facebook, I don't know if you saw the one the guy wrote and said, eventually David had to pick up that stone.
Yep. And
kill Goliath.
Yep. That's what's
so. And basically, folks, I'm telling you right now, we conservatives who don't protest, we protest in a different way. We protest by, I'm not going to buy your product. I'm not going to go to your store. I'm not going to do those things. That's how we protest. We protest
or we conduct a podcast. I mean, that's how we protest.
And we do podcasts. We do stuff. We don't destroy property. We don't. Nope. We have some factions out there that are violent, but they don't run our party. Okay, and we ignore them. You know, it's like we don't. But the evil part of the Democrats is running their party.
Absolutely.
And it's just I can't stress this enough that we've got to. There's going to come a time when we are going to have enough.
We're going to have to pick up the rock, Jim.
Yeah, we're going to have to pick up the rock. And if you want to start seeing something, and I'm not talking violence, okay? I'm talking out and out protests. I'm talking out and out going up to the Pelosi, like, and we'll talk here in the next segment, but Pelosi's house. I mean, to stand out there and just hold signs or put signs on the, whatever. We haven't begun to fight if you want to say.
No.
And
why though? And Jim, and I think a part of that is because,
we work.
Well, that, we have jobs and families but I think another reason is because you see things like 157 Republicans voting to send $40 million to Ukraine. Yeah. You can't have those people in there. Those people cannot be in office. They have to be replaced with people that have true conservative values and fight. The people like the Jim Jordans and the Matt Gaetzes and the Boeberts and the, Greens.
Jim Banks.
People that are running like Laverne Spicer, like there's another gentleman, Reuben Young, down in the 23rd District of Florida, who is running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I think we all remember her.
Oh, name. Yeah, wonderful.
So,
yeah.
I mean, again, I would vote for, a pile of dog shit over Debbie Wasserman Schultz. But those people need to be installed. Those are the ones who need to win and get in office to fight back for this country. And there shouldn't have been one Republican who voted for that Ukraine money. Not a one.
And
not a one.
And they were going to be demonized, but all they had to sit here and say, folks, we have to fix what's going on in this country.
We should protect our border first.
My favorite thing is we helped Russia finance the war by buying oil from them initially.
Yep.
And then even when they started invading, we were still buying oil.
We were.
And then finally somebody told this idiot who's in office right now, as Kamala's laughing, doing her giggling stuff that she does. And so then I guess we better stop buying from them.
No, and now I didn't know.
And now we're giving money to the people they're attacking. But we are going to shit.
Yeah,
we're going to shit.
We're giving them more money. We already gave them $30 million, I think.
China's economy is going to shit. Okay, but China doesn't care. China's going to kill off their people as much as they can because that's what China does, and nobody says anything about it.
That's right.
LeBron James will still praise them and do all that stuff. But
that's right.
Anyway, I just, it's enough of that shit.
All right, Jim, I am thoroughly pissed off, but let's get on to our next segment. You're up, my friend.
For the record, that's twice in a row I let it go. So I'm learning.
So really quick, and I'll just make this. If you listened to the last show, you might have heard in one of the segments us talking and laughing about. So, to make it easier for the guy that does the editing, in between the segments, I like a little break, maybe 3, 4, 5 seconds. Jim has a problem with that. So, now everybody knows. Jim, you did great today. You've done great so far, but there's still show left. So
yeah. Okay, so and this is going to be quick. I mean, this is going to be real quick.
Okay.
Abortion. It's not going away. For a leaked draft. Okay. We don't even know what it's going to say.
Nope.
And now we have politicians coming out and asking people to break the law. Because, folks, Dale mentioned this earlier, and I think this was a Democrat, if I'm not mistaken, that helped push this law, is that you cannot intimidate a judge by standing out in front of their house, standing out in front of the courtroom. You can't intimidate. You can't protest against them.
Correct.
Well, that's what's going on, but who cares, right? The left doesn't care about laws anyway. They make them up as they go. So Omar, wonderful Omar, who's probably the most well-respected person a part of Congress. Minnesota, wake up. Get her the hell out of there, please.
Come on.
And then, of course, Elizabeth Warren, who doesn't know that fetus is a baby. But anyway.
Or what nationality she is.
But they're encouraging people to go protest. And so they're encouraging people to break the law, which is kind of funny because they also encourage people to break the law during the election. They encourage people to break the law coming across the border illegally. So again, laws don't matter to the left.
Correct.
It does not matter.
But it doesn't matter, and it apparently doesn't apply.
Right. So because we're identifying women now when it comes to abortion.
Yeah.
We identify a woman as a woman because she has a right to choose, but a transgender, there's no identity. They're all over the place with their, but anyway, all of this is in part because of a leaked, what we know one of the leftist judges leaked it. I believe it was Kajana Brown. I believe that's somebody in her group released it because, oh my God, the sky's falling because abortion is going to be taken away. And I'm tired of saying this, Dale, but I feel like we have to say it every time. Your state may not legalize it. Nope. Okay, your state may allow it. There might be hindrances on it. You might not be able to do it after 12 weeks. You may not be able to do it 16 weeks. It's in majority of the states, it's not going away. Some states, they won't allow it. Other states, it goes away. Most of the states are going to allow to do it. But what's important, there's nowhere in that statute, I guarantee, that says a person can't go from Indiana to Illinois. A person can't go from... you can do that if the state next to you has abortions. You can do that. Okay. There's talk now, the psychotic governor of Michigan, that I sure in the hell hope she gets elected out. But
Gretchen Whitmore or something like that.
Yeah.
I think
I had it in my head.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, but she was talking about in 1913 there was a law in Michigan that abortion. The only time abortion is illegal is with the mother's life in jeopardy. So it never mentioned anything about rape, never mentioned anything about incest. So she's wanting to get that overturned because if the federal government says the federal government does not decide, which they shouldn't, that abortion's allowed or not allowed, which means the states go back to their laws they have on the books, which means they have to go back to that 1913 law. So the state legislature, and she's worried about it because it's mostly Republicans, that they're going to do something with it. Who knows, guys? We don't know what anybody's going to do. We don't know what's coming out on this thing. So you sit there and you intimidate. You sit there and you go out there. Hopefully the judges doesn't let this happen. Hopefully they don't get intimidated into it. But did you see the latest where the same groups were protesting Pelosi's house?
I did.
Because she's not doing enough. because she's not bringing indictments against these conservative judges where there's no indictment to be had.
No.
They're still talking about this sexual assault that Kavanaugh had that was proven that it never happened. And so now they have these posters that are saying liar on the top of all the conservative judges. Mm-hmm. What are they lying about? What did they ever lie about? Now
they're talking about it when they were being confirmed during the confirmation hearings, and they'd ask them about, are you going to overturn Roe v. Wade? Well, there's a precedent there. There's legal terms that I'm not familiar with, but there's precedent there. They never said yes. They never said no. But they just, right now it's there. No. Just right now it's there.
It's a law. It's a law. It is right now.
As it is right now, it's a law. Correct.
Yeah. So that's not lying. But I could put a poster on the liberal judges that are on there, and I could put liar on there, and I could prove it. That they actually lied. They actually did this. They actually did that. So, it's just we're getting. This is how crazy the left is, and I guarantee you, there's people out there on the left that think all this stuff is right. As a matter of fact, they probably think it's okay if they start destroying the houses of these judges, and go so far as to say, "Man, wouldn't it be nice if one of them died?" Or maybe two of them died. I guarantee you that's what they're thinking, and I guarantee you. That's what Elizabeth Warren and Omar and all these leftist idiots out there want to happen. I believe that. I believe they hope something bad happens to these judges. One way or the other, I am very concerned between now and not the midterms. I'm concerned. Well, yeah, I guess midterms would, because then we could overturn anybody that he puts on the court. But we could, in 2024, we have to hope they stay alive until 2024. We have to, because who knows what the left is going to do. You have the Clintons on there that, they had over 40 people that they knew that suicided themselves. Or my favorite one is where they had a heart attack and their car stalled on the railroad tracks, because that happens every day. It's every day. So, but the wife of this guy happens to not say anything. She served her time in jail and she's still alive. But I digress.
That's right.
That's another discussion for another day. So that's all I got on abortion, because we're going to talk to the next interview. But
this is it's a good segue, Jim, to who we're interviewing next and why. I'll if you don't mind, I'll kind of just briefly say it because she introduces herself. But it's an interview you and I conducted with a woman by the name of Stacey St John. I want to preface this by saying that I think we had another idea of how this was going to turn out. I think we thought this was going to be a little bit more
confrontational.
Yeah, I would say confrontational is a good word. It is not at all. And I'll tell you why it's not at all. First of all, she's a very intelligent woman. She owns her own business. She runs a podcast. She's been to college. She'll get over all that. She'll go through all that. Of course, we all know college doesn't make you intelligent, but I mean, she is. And we didn't get into her political background. We didn't say who would you vote for, who would you not vote for. We didn't get into that, but we can assume, I think, that she probably leans more left. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, and you'll hear it. I believe she's the left, what the left used to be. She's what the left used to be before the progressives and the wackos took over. But anyways, her name is Stacey St John. Jim, do you want to say anything before we run into the interview? Yeah,
great interview. We thought it might have been a little more combative. We were very nervous about two guys talking to a woman about a woman's right to choose in her body.
So, I mean, that's what we had her on the show for. And we'll get into why and all that on there. But, Jim, let's get right to it. Stay tuned for the interview, and we'll be back after it's done to discuss it a little further. So here's next our interview with Stacey St John. Well, we are very happy to have on the show today with us Stacey St John. Stacey, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Stacey, you're owner of a company called Olex Properties, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? You also have a podcast. The Olex Properties podcast? as well.
It is.
You studied political science, if I'm not mistaken, in New York, right, at Queens College of New York.
Queens College.
And you have a paralegal background. Is that true? Or you study paralegal?
Yes. I wanted to be a lawyer. It didn't work out for me, but I'm a long-time paralegal, specifically in foreclosure.
Gotcha. Oh, good. Okay. All right. And you live in New York now, but born, raised, or grew up in New Jersey. Is that correct?
Born in New Jersey, but for the most part, I've been on Long Island.
You have. Okay. Good. Good. Tell us a little bit about Olix Properties, and then we'll kind of get into why you're here and how that all started.
Sure. So essentially, I'm a wholesaler. I wanted to be someone who did construction. So it started off as just a way to find my own off-market properties.
Mm-hmm.
But then I found out I hate construction. And especially with all the changes in the world, the prices went up so high. It was so unmanageable. The building department delays became incredible. So I started finding houses for other builders. And then that kind of also morphed into an educational platform where now I'm trying to teach licensed realtors how to, have better rapport with clients, so on and so forth.
Wow. And how's that going for you?
It's going really, really great.
Good.
Actually, the educational platform is taking off in a way I never expected.
Good. That's great. Good for you. Interesting. And they can listen to you on your podcast. Is that something that airs like weekly or daily, or how does that work for you?
So I'm a little clumsy with it right now. I used to do one every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm right now looking to get into a studio that will handle it for me. So I hope come this summertime, you will be seeing it in a new format very regularly.
Good. And when that happens, let us know, and we'll
definitely
tell everybody, our listeners, about it so they can listen to it. It's interesting. I did go back and listen to a couple of them that are in the past, and I very interesting stuff, actually. So, and it's well done. So you really do need to pay attention to that. The reason we have asked you to come onto the show, unfortunately, it doesn't have anything to do with properties at this point, but Stacey and I kind of went back and forth a little bit on a Facebook podcast page when it came to the subject of abortion, which is on everybody's mind now because of the leaked draft from Justice Alito stating that Roe v. Wade potentially is going to be overturned. So Jim and I, we conservative podcast guys, we have a view that we are obviously pro-life. I think maybe you'll be pro-choice. I'll let you get into that, obviously, and then tell us your views on it. But that's where we're coming from. So we wanted to bring you on to kind of get your opinion. We're conservative guys who are pro-life. We're not women. So, it's from that perspective, we want to maybe hear your ideas on it and your thoughts on it and your thoughts on Roe v. Wade and the whole thing. So, if you want to start off, just kind of tell us what your opinion is on that. We can kind of move from there.
Sure. So I think that, I am a pro-choice person.
Mm-hmm.
I have never had an abortion, but I've had some very difficult pregnancy-related situations in my life where I have had to make difficult medical decisions.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, we have the right to medical privacy. And I think what a lot of people are overlooking about Roe v. Wade is that underlying here, things like HIPAA
Mm-hmm.
are based on the precedent Roe v. Wade set. So, if you are of the belief that, abortion is wrong, a lot of us can respect the individual point of view. But I think if Roe v. Wade is actually overturned, then every single American, regardless of view, is at risk of losing their right to medical privacy. Because all of the subsequent Supreme Court cases used Roe v. Wade as the precedent for privacy and the 14th Amendment
Mm-hmm.
of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to just imagine this as only an abortion issue.
Well,
I think it affects everyone.
But when you hear the justice come out and said potentially, and Dale and I have been talking about this since we started our podcast months ago, and it was we believe the federal government, per the federal requirements, is going to overturn Roe v. Wade. But that means means it's not going away. That means each state then will have their right to decide what they want to do. And I honestly believe, okay, the vast majority of the states, and I mean vast majority of the states, will have maybe no abortion after 12 weeks or no abortion after 16. They all have it now. They have their own different versions of it. And so, but my whole point is, why are we reacting this way when it hasn't even been, when we haven't even, what we heard is a rumor on a draft that it potentially could be overturned. 100%. And so now we overreact, obviously. And so that's one of the things that we've always talked about, is that we believe abortion is wrong. However, we also live in a world where if California wants to legalize it up to birth, then what can we do about it? That's their choice. That is the state's choice. If Alabama wants to say no abortions at all, period, except for mother's health, then that's not up to us to say. That's up to Alabama to say. So we're not really seeing that it's going to be overturned, only from the federal side of things, where it says, let the states decide what they want to do.
You know what, though? You said something else kind of in between there, though, is like the sensationalism of how like information is delivered and how people receive it now. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to somebody about school closures, right? And so I'm about to be 39. So like I went to elementary school in the 90s, and when it snowed, there was like, hey, be careful on the roads, and now when it snows, it's like storm report from here, school closures across the island. And like, even the way the weather is delivered is so sensationalized and so different than it was even when I was a kid.
Correct.
I couldn't help but think the same thing. Like, somebody leaked something that didn't even pass yet, and people are in the streets with signs. Like, it does feel like a little bit of, I feel like it should be taken seriously, especially as a woman, but I do feel like it's a little overblown at this exact moment.
Okay. Yeah. That's how we all agree with that it is overblown at this moment, without a doubt. I guess the issue we have, and I had to look this up because I didn't know it, but most states currently, with Roe v. Wade implemented, obviously, like Jim had said, have their own different versions of when an abortion is legal in that state. Like Jim said, I don't think that's going to change much. There's a question for me on viability. A lot of states list it as the viability of a child, which to me is, I look at it from a point of view is, and most of them, I'll give you an example. They have the viability up to 24 weeks. So before 24 weeks, they feel the child isn't viable. Although before 24 weeks, we all know with today's medical advances that a child can live with that, before 24 weeks. But that's what they kind of listed as. 24 weeks is the time when the mother can decide, okay, I no longer want this baby. I no longer, whatever the reason, we can go ahead and abort. It's based on the timing, 5 to 6 months into a pregnancy. You're pushing close to the third trimester at that point. And at some point, I guess it's a matter of when life begins, or what people think when life begins. I'm a believer that life begins at conception. I understand that people don't believe that, and they think life begins when they hear the heartbeat. And so to me, it's always the question of, if we consider a sign of death is when the heart stops, why is it never a sign of life when the heart beats? And so I have a problem with, I don't like to say the word they're murdering, but I mean, I feel it's a human life that they are taking. And I don't know how you feel about that as a woman, as somebody who's experienced some issues with pregnancies in the past. Can you see that point from conservatives or pro-life people?
I can, because I had an experience kind of in the opposite, that I'm very happy to share. When I was before I got pregnant with my first son, I had a miscarriage. And then I got pregnant with my first son about 10 months later, and it was an extremely trying pregnancy. At 16 weeks, I had to go to a very special genetics counselor to do all sorts of blood work because I carried something in my DNA from my ancestry. And they told me my son had the markers for what's called trisomy 18. Now, Down syndrome is 21. 18 is the failure to thrive. Wow. 90% of babies that have that are born still. So they said, we're not really sure yet. Come back in 4 weeks. So at 20 weeks, I went back, repeated the same test, and I sat with a woman who had a very prestigious PhD. And she told me that I should consider aborting my child because she was sure that he had trisomy 18 and that he wouldn't be able to have the brain to lung connection to breathe on his own and all of these terrifying things.
Yeah.
I don't know why I knew that she was wrong. Maybe there's something that happens with God within being the mother and being electrically connected to this fetus or baby, however you view it. I just knew she was wrong. And now he's 7.5 years old, fastest kid on the track team.
Wow.
And he is a math whiz doing math with the 10-year-olds going to be in the mathletes. I won't say that he wasn't born with some issues, but imagine I would have listened to that medical professional.
That is rough. Okay, so that leaves, that leaves a bunch of questions. How do you trust medical officials? How do you base that decision? It would have been very easy for you at that point, based on a professional telling you that it's best you abort your child because of these issues.
Sure. That
would have been super easy to do. And I give you credit, and, thank God you didn't, I mean, so,
yeah.
So when does a woman, Jim, I'll ask you, I mean, because I don't know the answer. When does a woman decide then at that point that, boy, I should listen to this professional?
Oh man, there's a lot of different variables about this, and it's very touchy because you've got some people that have probably went ahead and done it, right? Because they have the fear of it. So I guess it's based on your personal experience, and it's based on what you personally feel. But if you've got this possibility that your child's going to be Downs, it's going to be like your child, that there was possibility that there was just going to be no brain function, stillborn, you go through the 9 weeks or the 9 months, deliver the baby, and it's stillborn. And that's got to be rough in itself. And I completely understand in all that stuff. But it's basically, I think it's down to your personal belief. What do you want to do as a person? The person that says, if my child could be Down syndrome, so what? I'll take care of that child. I'll love that child more, and I'll just take care of it. And unfortunately, you got other people out there that may say, no, I don't want to deal with that. And which is unfortunate, but that's at this point in time what they're to do. But your story, I think, is different, and I respect what you did, because I think there's a number of people that would have went the other way. And now look at your child. You love that child. That child's flourishing, and it's a great story. And we like to hear those type of stories. And then you've got the other stories as well, where people have went through with the pregnancy and then struggled because it was stillborn. So
Yeah, it's admirable and gutsy. I mean, it was just a gutsy call. And like you said, whether it was something telling you, a higher power, whatever you believe in, something told you to make that decision. And I can't imagine going the other way. I mean, most people, it would be like, I'd never know, I went the other way. They said it wasn't going to be born that way, and they just kind of move on with their life, not being happy about it, I'm sure. Because I think you find that at least studies show that most people, abortions, for most people, is a last resort for them. I mean, it's not something that people want to do. But then you hear about how it's being abused, as birth control, as the Planned Parenthood people who are, harvesting body parts. You hear the horror stories. You kind of heard it from Planned Parenthood, some undercover stuff from Planned Parenthood. And that's when you begin to think, why are women doing this? And a lot of it, is not the risk of the mother. A lot of abortions that actually happen, not your decision where you decided to go through with it. But a lot of it is not, at least a higher percentage is not a risk to the mother's health, or it's not a risk to the baby's health, but it's more of a lifestyle change. And that's what really gets us is, we're sorry if it interferes with your lifestyle, but you maybe should have thought about that, a few months ago when you were having sex or whatever, using protection. So, which doesn't have anything really to do with the Roe versus Wade decision. It really doesn't. But I mean, it has to do with, I guess, the whole thought process on abortion and whether it's, being utilized for the right purpose. And so,
Sure,
yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
No, I think that the way women feel right now, and actually, I have a very conservative friend who feels the same, who it's like, if you got, if an unplanned pregnancy happened,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say you filed bankruptcy yesterday and you're completely broke and nobody knows and you don't want to tell anybody, or the man that you got pregnant with said, I'm not going to do this with you, bye, and disappears into the night. Or if you know that you just got a difficult health diagnosis and you might not be able to function on the other side of this pregnancy, or if you have a history of postpartum depression, which I have to tell you is the most terrifying thing.
It's real.
That happens out of your own control.
Mm-hmm.
I think women feel that these situations that you're talking about definitely exist,
Mm-hmm.
but all of these other situations, why do women have to explain themselves just because there are other nefarious things that do happen?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I have to justify that I just got diagnosed with cervical cancer and I don't think I could bring a child to this world right now, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any money, I just lost my job, I can't pay for this baby.
Mm-hmm.
These are real things, and it's hard
Mm-hmm.
for women to feel like they have to tell people this stuff just so they could go do what they have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I, again, Dale and I are not, just like when we talked to Kareem, I am not sitting here and I'm not going to try to pretend that I know what it's like to be a woman. Absolutely never do that.
Sure.
Never do that.
Yeah.
But I do have some, look, I believe that Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned from the federal side, but states are going to, we've talked about that already. But what I would like to see every state do, okay, and I know it won't happen. There's going to be people out there that say that it happens, but it's not, and we all know that it's not. But I really honestly think when you as an individual decide to have an abortion, okay, there needs to be an age. Okay, I believe 18. Anyone under 18, you have to have a parent consent. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do it. Your parent has to know that. And then the other thing is counseling this individual on what you're really doing, and going from there. And I think that's more important than anything, because I believe abortion. I live in Indiana, okay, and we are a fairly conservative state. I don't believe it's going to be abolished in Indiana. I think there's going to be a limit to when you can have it done, okay? But either way, no matter what happens, whether I lived in California, whether I live in Indiana, if in fact abortion is still going to go on, I want to see help for these individuals. I want them to have an option. Look, there's abortion. Okay, if you can't afford this child, we completely understand. There's always adoption. Okay, not abortion, adoption. Maybe we can adopt that child, give it to a family who really wants it, who can have children. And these are all things we can discuss all over. But I just want to see more of a counseling, because I've heard stories and I've talked to people that have gone through abortions, and they had the abortion and then they left. There was no support for them. There was nothing. And they were devastated. And they're, to this day, they feel, now they have children today, but they feel guilty about what they did. And I just think there needs to be more counseling out there to know what you're actually doing. So,
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, and you hit the nail on the head. Like, infrastructure is important with anything. Like, I think even when women have miscarriages, I mean, I at least know with my own, you feel a sense of guilt. Like, maybe I drank too much coffee. Maybe I was exercising too much. Maybe I'm not healthy enough. Like, you blame yourself even when it's without your own control. And even in my story that I told you before, like, there was no counseling offered to me to even help me through that decision. And I have very good health insurance. And there's these resources should be out there, because I do think that regardless of whatever decisions people make, long term, you could just make a more mentally healthy population.
Yeah, agreed.
Exactly.
Mentally healthy. Yeah. I completely agree.
Man,
with
we need that in more ways than one.
Well, you're right. Not just in this subject, but
abortion.
All over.
Like, you have a story, and my wife has a story, and here's a man's perspective from a story similar, and I'll be real quick about it. My wife had a miscarriage, as well, and so then we got pregnant again, and she started doing the same thing that she did with when she miscarried. So we went to an emergency room. We went through, and my wife is crying, and I'm like, okay, I got to be here for her, and all that. And so then they say, okay, we're going to do an ultrasound. So we went in, and it was a vaginal ultrasound, because you can't see anything, with a regular one. And I heard the heartbeat, and I started crying, because now that's real. Okay, that was real. So and so now we're both sitting here crying, and the tech is like looking at us like, "What? Why are you guys crying?" Because they didn't know. We were told she was going to lose it. Well, come to find out, it was the RH factor situation. So they had to give her a shot, because she was negative, I was positive. So, and our wonderful daughter is 20 years old, and but I'm telling you, it was from my standpoint as a man. Okay, I tried to be there for my wife, but I can't honestly know what she's going through on the inside when you miscarriage, just like your story. But when I saw that heartbeat on that screen, I mean, it was that big. Okay. I saw it. And that's when I finally said, okay, you know what? This is a child, and you can't convince me otherwise. Now, but here's my point on all of this. I disagree with abortion. But I'm not going to go out, and somebody who has an abortion, I'm not going to go out and get in their face and say, you just killed a baby. You just killed a baby. That's not my choice. That was their choice. That's their personal opinion. How can we, and I think all of us, I like how we're having this discussion, but how can we together, both pro and, pro-choice and pro-life, how can we come together to say, all right, guys, I may not agree with you, but come on. From the pro-life movements that firebomb, okay, I don't think we have it as much anymore, but they firebomb Planned Parenthood places that do abortions. That's wrong. That's wrong. We should never do that. And then the other way, like recent thing in Wisconsin, when the pro-life or pro-choice people completely demolished a pro-life support group for life. And we got to get away from this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it
was just
in Wisconsin.
And it's really
over the weekend.
How can we come together? Because I guess it's people like us, right? It's people like us that, because we respect where you're coming from. We may not agree with it, but I respect where you're coming from, and vice versa. It sounds like,
and likewise,
yeah. So, how do we, as what I like to think, logical thinking human beings, how can we take the radical side of each side and say, guys, come on? I mean, it's just let's move on here. Let's try.
Well, I think. I know you've asked Stacey, and absolutely will give you a chance to answer that. But Jim, it to me, it comes from the messaging from your leaders, whether it's your local leadership, whether it's national leadership, and the messaging can't be divisive. It has to be clear and concise that this is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it. The leak to me, the leak was generated to create this. Was created was absolutely created for this reason. There would have been a way this would have rolled out. We would have learned more about it. There would have there's extremists on both sides of the aisle, but it would have been released in a way where at least maybe some of this could have been contained. This was out there for a reason, so we could all fight and we could all have our opinion. We could all pump up our voting base, whatever you want to call it. is why it happened. So to me, it comes from leadership. Stacey, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of my opinion on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I completely wholeheartedly agree with you guys. I feel like what we're doing right now, and hopefully inspiring more people to have these types of discussions
Mhm.
on a forum that people can see. I think that peaceful debate is really what starts it,
Mhm.
because there's been so much sensationalism and so much emotion at all times about any topic. I mean, the weather, anything.
Anything.
There's just anything. I think more examples of human beings treating each other as such is like really the best place to start, because I respect that you guys invited me on this show,
Mhm.
and I'm enjoying the conversation, and I like, unlike I think some people feel on Facebook, I don't feel threatened by the difference in opinion. I feel it's very constructive.
Mhm.
And I don't know how people remove the radicalism, but I hope that more people are going to do exactly
It's what it's going to
this and
take.
inspire other people.
It's what it's going to take. It just talk and get through it and have different opinions. It's what makes, I think, America great, is that we aren't all alike and we don't all agree on everything. But I think the creation of, and this is a whole other subject, the whole creation of the social media and how I could be a tough guy on social media. Why? Because I'm not face to face with anybody. How many of those people are non-confrontational face to face, but they get behind their keyboards and they're just, destroying other people. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really is a detriment. It's to what I think is happening with just clear and concise debate. At least debate like we're having here, and it's going to take that from everybody to do that.
And
Sorry,
go ahead. Well, it's the three of us.
Yeah,
you know nothing about us. We knew nothing about you, but here we are, strangers, having a realistic conversation about
Correct.
a topic that in a poll, and I've got those numbers too, but in a recent poll of Americans, abortion is like 8th. If they had a list of 10 issues, abortion was 8th. And it's like we get to the point where, look, we're against it, but it's here. So what are we going to do? That's how we do it. We have our opinions, you have yours. And
I
so
wanted,
it's
I wanted
kind
to
of
go,
interesting.
Yeah. I wanted to go back, Stacey, real quick on the whole, and you brought up at the beginning of the show, was the HIPAA violation and how everything was kind of stemmed from that. And I don't know this to be true or not true, but I feel like whether or not Roe v. Wade goes away, HIPAA violations are still in place. Do you feel that goes away when that happens, or do you think it?
I don't think it will immediately.
Okay.
But the way the Supreme Court is built, like regardless of political party, is every court case is based on court cases that came prior.
Precedent.
And Roe v. Wade really set the precedent for privacy. It set lawsuits that give people the choice to marry who they want, make all sorts of medical choices outside of abortion privately. All of these things cite Roe v. Wade as the precedent for medical privacy. And if you destabilize something that set like the very first precedent, you're opening the door for a lot of years of Supreme Court cases to be challenged.
Okay.
All right. I guess my question is, how is overturning Roe v. Wade, how is that taking away HIPAA rights? Is what I would like to know. Because I'm kind of confused on that. On exactly.
Sure. So the Supreme Court case that brought HIPAA to light actually cited Roe v. Wade as precedent for medical privacy. I don't remember the name of the lawsuit.
That's
I
fine.
can shoot it to you guys when we're done recording.
Okay.
But HIPAA arose out of a Supreme Court case that said something about how medical privacy is actually a constitutional right ingrained in the 14th Amendment and then reinforced by Roe v. Wade. So the worry is that all of these things will be challenged because the precedent would be undone.
Yep. Okay. I mean, once you remove the precedent, it does make it, easier. I can't. nothing would surprise me, is what I'm saying to you. Is that, you know, if it did go, if medical privacy did go away, yeah, I'd have a massive problem with that. You know, I have a wife who has many medical issues, and it would, I would not want the world to know all that, you know.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I know the five justices, I think feel the same way. They don't want HIPAA. They don't want open, because it is your privacy. It is your. Yep. This is kind of a different. But I see how you're saying it, because when you put it into a legal structure, you're going to have people sitting out here saying, "Wait a minute, if this happened, why can't this happen?" I get it.
It's a trickle effect.
But I honestly don't think, and again, this is maybe me because of the way I feel, but I don't feel the 5 justices. I know some people want to say 6, but Roberts is whatever he feels like doing at the time. So,
never know.
But the 5 justices, they're not going to want this either. They're not going to want your HIPAA rights taken away from you. They're not going to want to. This is a whole different term. This is a matter of life and death in some people's eyes. Okay, this is a matter of this. Yeah. This is a life that is being taken. Okay, so and that's why I think it's important to note that states will have their own rights to do it and everything. But I agree with you. There's no way HIPAA, if we get to the point where that's no longer secret, yeah, then now we have a problem. I really do. I think we
a major problem now. Major problem. Correct. Yeah, absolutely correct. Stacey, I had a list of questions I wanted to ask you, but I know the answers, I think, already. I mean, you are very reasonable in your thought process. Yes. And the fact that you just even shared your story with us is an honor.
Thank you for
and we
that.
appreciate it. And you know, and I do want, as this goes on, honestly, I'd love to have you back on to, you know, seeing which direction this thing goes, and maybe talk a little bit more about it at that point. And honestly,
or talk about real estate.
Or talk about real estate. Talk about the real estate market and why is it so expensive for me to live in Florida now?
It is ridiculous. Yeah. Actually, I have a lot of family in Plant City, and they got a new construction home. And she was like, "It costs so much to live here, but it was still like half the price of my old rickety house."
We're not used to this down in Florida, you know. So it's crazy. So tell us again, Stacey, if you don't mind, your business and how people can reach you to learn more about it, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I like when people follow me on Instagram, Olex, OLEX.properties. That's plural. And I have a YouTube channel called the Olex Properties Podcast. I'm on all podcast platforms. And I talk about, you know, encouraging high school kids to learn things about, like, what is a mortgage? What are your property taxes?
Like, that's great. That's great.
I didn't even know how to balance a checkbook when I graduated high school, but I knew the Pythagorean theorem. It's like, you know, I teach, you know, all sorts of people different way to build sales skills by using the invite this person to your backyard barbecue mentality and not pitching people.
Yeah.
And then I also help people, you know, sell their house in short sale, which sucks, but I help a lot of people get out of under expensive stuff.
And
I will say this, Stacey, you help with the stereotype of New Yorkers. You're very nice. You're very nice.
Thank you. I had to remind myself to talk slowly during this, because usually I'm like this and I'm talking really fast, you know, like I sound super aggressive.
No, it's fine. It's great. And I want to say something to what you just said. I think that is phenomenal to teach kids mortgage, how to balance a checkbook, because in our local school here, there's a freshman class that freshmen go into, and they kind of teach that. Why as a freshman? Why aren't we doing it at seniors? It should be something that, because a lot of times they don't have that. And I think that's fantastic. That goes a little bit above and beyond property, and I think that's great. I think too bad we can't get it in the schools.
I mean, Imagine if public schools taught time blocking and time management.
Oh my gosh,
it would change kids' lives.
It would.
Sorry.
That's
Well,
that's
okay.
right.
We
That's all right.
do it all the time.
Yeah, we do it all the time. Yeah, we're so professional. Imagine if they did that and if they taught that, and maybe not worry so much about transgenderism,
Right.
really, as much. I'm not saying that's another subject, but I'm saying that they need the financial skills and they need that knowledge and they need the economic knowledge and all that to really make it in life. You need that stuff, and I know Florida has implemented or will implement beginning next year. There is basically economic studies that is now a requirement in order to graduate. So it goes over the basics of balancing your checkbook and knowing about bank accounts and interest rates and what that all means in the world. And it should be nationwide in this country, and what you do should be taught that. So, Stacey, thank you so much for coming on. Honestly, this was great, and getting your perspective and getting to know you has been an absolute pleasure. And we can't thank you enough for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and really good luck to you. We'll talk again. I know I've got your information. As this thing moves on, even if housing markets, we talk about a lot of stuff. I'd love to get your opinion and discussion on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can have you back on when you have time and we can talk further if you don't mind.
Yeah, I would love to. I've had a great time. Really, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you again. You have a great day. Well, guys, thank you again for listening today and for listening to that interview. Jim, we talked about it briefly before we introduced her, that it was different than we thought it was going to be. Obviously not confrontational. She shared a very personal story with us. She did. Very personal story with us that she did not have to share. And it goes to show, I think, both sides of the argument on her point. Is that she could have very easily, based on what a medical professional told her, abort her child. Yep. And whatever the higher power was, call it what you want, told her not to. And obviously you heard the outcome of that. So she was very sensible and I think understands both sides of the arguments. Now, she did bring up, Jim, some of the information on HIPAA laws, which I wasn't really familiar with. Right. I know for a fact that really that HIPAA stuff came into play during the Bill Clinton administration back in 1996. And obviously HIPAA for people, it's health privacy acts. And she said that was a lot of precedent. Roe v. Wade was used as a lot of precedent. I did very little research to this point, and I will look at it further. I couldn't find that, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. I just don't know.
I did look at it a little bit. There was some references in some of them, but I'm not a scholar. I'm not a lawyer at all, and I'm not especially a justice or anything like that by any stretch. Yeah. But I can see how that would be concerning. But I think the way that everything was written, that it's not. That it won't have an effect. It was just referenced. It's this and that. So HIPAA laws, guys, just so you know, the 5 judges that you guys are concerned about taking away the abortion side of things are not going to allow your personal privacy to get invaded. That's not
what their argument is.
This is not for security purposes at all.
Correct.
This is not for security purposes at all. So now security purposes, there's been times in our past that they had to do it, but totally opposite. But so I see her concern and I see what kind of problems it could cause. I just think we're worrying about something that isn't going to happen. That's my opinion.
I do too. But anyways, Stacey, again, thank you for coming on the show. It was a pleasure.
It was great. Yes.
It was great. As this moves forward, if it does happen and as things progress, we'd love to get her take on that as well. Again, like I said, I think in the interview, we had a whole series of questions to throw her way. Yeah. And I wouldn't say they're like gotcha questions, but they're questions to make you think. You didn't need to with her. She's a pretty sensible person who understands both sides of what's happening. And it was great. So thank you again, Stacey, for coming on. Jim, that was a great show. I was very, very, angry, but not. I think maybe you calmed me down with your soothing tone.
I have always loved Angry Dale.
I love Angry Jim.
Of course, I'm going to get in trouble because I did say bitch. So,
no.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's very sexist of you.
But I don't care.
Get in trouble.
I think most of the women I know in my life do think she's a bitch. So
I agree. Yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. Remember, folks, to follow us on YouTube.
I actually said it 3 times.
What, bitch, 3 times?
Yeah, I just said 2 more times.
You did, Jim.
Terrible.
You're filthy. You've got a potty mouth today.
I do.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Rumble. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you hear podcasts. You can find us there. Please go to our Facebook group page, 2 Guys, 1 Coup. Join that. That's where we post all the links and we post other little things. And even now and then, Jim contributes. So,
wow.
See us on TikTok, which Jim and I are trying to get more involved in ourselves. Some of the reason why Jim isn't on there as much is my fault. No reason to explain that. Just know that I'm taking the blame for it. You're welcome. And guys, I thank you again. We appreciate the support. Please like, follow, share, comment, give us a review. Super important. Jim, what else do you have to say today, sir?
Nothing. It's been a pleasure as always.
Well, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you next Tuesday for episode 27. Adios, Jimmy.
See ya.
Bye.